Greetings, another no microphone rolling rambles because I love making you guys listen to wind noise the entire time. This one's about teenagers, specifically make teenagers work again. We need teenagers to do work. Now, how did this come up? Apparently, there are a lot of Democrats that are pissed off that Ron DeSantis down in Florida or whatever is loosening labor laws to allow teenagers to work more hours or work later hours or something like that. And I don't really want to talk about that specifically. I want to talk more generally about how for decades this country has screwed teenagers over. See, the problem is that you need to learn how to do jobs and deal with people and handle, being managed or managing or whatever. You need to learn how to exist in the world. And one of the biggest problems for teenagers is that they don't know how to exist in the real world. They live in school. School is not the real world. School doesn't work the same way that everything else does in life. And once they're out of school, they have no choice but to live in the real world, or at least, once the parents kick them out of the nest or whatever. But they don't have any choice. Dead mosquito. They don't have any choice but to live in the real world because the world doesn't care about you. The world has no feelings for or against you. It just is what it is, and you have no choice but to live in it. So teenagers need to learn how to live in the world. How do they learn to live in the world? By interacting with it, by being a part of it, by joining the community around them or whatever, by having something to do and learning how to do it and how to deal with all of the things that come up around it. Perhaps my most formative experiences were, unfortunately, I was a teen, but I was also an adult teen, and I was doing some temp work related to computers, and it wasn't really, honestly, today I would consider it bitch work, but it was still computer work, and it was my first job and all that. So I was just helping out for like 6 months, just doing some like office computer stuff. Dead mosquito. Sorry, there's a mosquito that's been driving me nuts. And it really did help me to understand how things work because the person I was doing this, it wasn't an internship, but this low-level, entry-level job for, was pretty patient and understanding and helped me to kind of grab the ropes and figure out how to do what I needed to do, how not to give into my autistic tendencies because I'm autistic. And it's not easy being autistic in the real world because the real world doesn't care that you're angry. You still have to hold it in and suck it up and deal with it. And sometimes it's better to suck it up and deal with it than rage at whoever and get fired from your job. And now you have no income. And now you can't pay your bills. And you wonder why you did that. And you wonder what you did wrong. And this doesn't just apply to autistic people. Obviously, it applies to everyone. But your teenage years are more formative than your early adult years. And I think it's really important that teens have the opportunity to do work. They need to do something practical, like kill mosquitoes. I'm going to find that mosquito and murder it, I swear to God. Where are you? I'm going to crash because of a mosquito. He's dead. No, he's not. How is this thing still alive? You've got to be kidding me. This mosquito really doesn't want teens to do work. I am so sorry about the mosquito. So listen, back to the topic at hand. Unfortunately, entry-level jobs have vanished over my lifetime. Honestly, I feel like I got one of the last ones. Almost everything now requires you have one of two things, connections or experience, and that's it. Now, when you're autistic and socially anxious and a loner and all that, you have neither of those things at first, which makes it awfully hard for you to, get any kind of job at all. And in fact, I have applied to jobs in the past 10 years just to see if I could swap out my computer repair business stuff for something that would make me a hell of a lot more money. But of course, I don't have the work history that necessarily you would expect to go with that. So, companies don't like the idea of hiring someone who's run their own business because, they'll be defiant, They'll think they know what to do best. They'll be hard to manage because they were managers. I would contend that running your own business makes you one of the best employees because you essentially could do what the manager does, but you choose not to. And you know how to manage, therefore you know how to behave under a manager. So, but that's not really the point of this video. the point of this video is we have seen the entry-level job die. There are too many people and not enough jobs. That's at least that's the way that it seems. Now, in some cases, there are not real jobs, but they look like there are real jobs, and they're called ghost jobs, and that's also not the subject of this video. But over time, what has happened is we've seen this wealth transfer to the wealthiest people in the entire country. The biggest wealth transfer in the history of the United States happened under Joe Biden during COVID, when for some reason large businesses were allowed to stay open, but small businesses were forcibly shuttered under threat of arrest. Even a lady in, like, I think New Jersey, who was selling clothing online in her locked office, like her locked retail space. She was in her space with nobody else and showing clothes on a webcam over the internet and selling them that way. And cops showed up at the door and said, you can't do that. Oh yeah, but you know what? You know who could do that? Tens of thousands of Amazon warehouse workers. They could still work, but this one small business owner couldn't. There was a gym that famously also had the same problem. Anywho, that also is not the point of this video. The point of this video is that these things, this wealth siphoning has forced older people, younger and younger older people, into back into the job market, when otherwise they would have retired at 65 and pretty much never worked a job again unless they wanted to for leisure purposes. It was something that they really wanted to do. However, the savings of older people have been depleted and, let's just be honest, stolen by extreme inflation caused by a certain president's policies in the early 2020s. Inflation is theft, by the way. Inflation steals the value of your existing money, and it also steals the value of any future money that you might get unless you get enough compensation added to make up for that inflation. So inflation is this really nasty form of taxation and thus theft. And that's sort of tangential, but not really the point of this video either. There's so much that goes into this, you see? So why am I saying make it so that teens work again? These skills are vital. Getting the experience in any job, it doesn't really matter so much what job they do. Any job where they have to work for someone else for pay, and getting used to the rules of that and how that makes the world work, that's really important stuff. But retirees are being forced back into the workforce, and people are losing, they've been, since 2008, have been losing homes and unable to afford a home, and rents go up. Airbnb destroyed the rental market. Foreigners, mainly from China, but other countries too, buy U.S. properties and let them sit empty. If something goes bad in China, they can theoretically bail to the United States to their property there and get away from China. You know, and I don't think that we should allow foreign people to buy up residential properties in the United States in general, but you know, that's also a topic for another video. Expenses keep going up through the roof, inflation through the roof. The existing money has been siphoned off through inflation and higher taxation, and it's this squeeze from all directions. So you have a situation where everybody basically needs to or has to work in some capacity, right? They really need to work, but they can't, because guess what? Not only are the jobs just not the same anymore because too many people have degrees, so there's these artificially inflated job requirements. Not only are there ghost jobs because companies are getting squeezed too. Make no mistake, ignoring huge companies, and even huge companies are feeling the squeeze. There are layoffs, but all companies are feeling the squeeze. There's everybody is getting hit one way or the other. But teenagers kind of get screwed in all of this, because if companies get squeezed, who goes first? The people with the least experience, the people that are lowest on the totem pole. That's always going to be teens. That's always going to be teens and younger adults. They're going to get squeezed out in favor of hiring people my age. A company would rather hire me, some guy in his 40s, than a teenager to do a job, especially if they could pay me the same amount that they would have paid the teenager, because I bring experience, maturity, compliance, etc. It's safe to assume that I am past my nasty, rebellious, angry, whatever phase, and that I've learned to mellow out and be more in tune with the job duties or whatever, just basically not be a pain in the ass. They'll hire me because I'm not a pain in the ass compared to a teen who might be. I don't have to be handheld the way that a teen might be. But the teens need to be taught. They need to learn. They have to somehow or another. Teens have to learn how to do this stuff. They can't just like absorb it. They can't just watch TV or Netflix or whatever and just, I know how to do a job now. And being on the internet, perpetually online, social media is not real, people. TikTok is not real. Your attention span's fried. And this is the thing, is that they get screwed because they don't have anything to do, so they just sit in front of this mindless brain siphon that is short-form content and social media, and they just feel bad about themselves all the time, but they don't have anything to do. A person who has something to do, who has something that they feel like they're useful, that everybody needs to feel useful in some way. They need to feel like they matter. And for teens, this is especially a serious problem. And it was a problem when I was a kid. My parents did not provide me with any way to obtain gainful employment when I was in high school. I had no way when I was a kid, and by kid I mean a teen, to even think about going out and doing some kind of job for someone. I didn't have the choice. I didn't have that option. It was not made available, but that was because of my parents and us living in a rural area. Then, just to go to town was a 2 or 3 mile drive, and they already worked 2 jobs and blah, blah, blah. So it's not like I could drive myself, and by the time I could drive myself, I was basically an adult. They didn't really do what they needed to do to get me a full provisional license or a vehicle. And they wouldn't let me ride my bike. That was covered in another video. They wouldn't let me ride my bike 2 miles into town to socialize and or find a job. And I know that 15-year-olds even are allowed to work in the country. I think you have to get a permit to do it, but 15-year-olds are allowed to work. Yet, I was not given the ability to have any kind of a job. I was sort of the built-in babysitter, so to speak. But that's an individual problem. This is a much bigger problem because now it's not my parents doing it to me. Now it's the entire country screwing teenagers over. It's the entire country saying, you suck. You are not worthy of doing any kind of work, because we have to fill that with retirees. Oh, wait, and also older people that should be in higher professions, but there's a job squeeze, so they'll take anything, and we'll take them over you. Oh, yeah, and by the way, we imported 30 million illegal aliens, and they'll do it under the table for half what you will, and they won't complain at all. So everybody is better than you. You poor, poor teenager. That is seriously the way that it is. If you're a teen today and you're trying to get work, you can't. It's very hard to get gainful employment without having somebody else pop in and be like, hey, I'm a better option. Pay me to do it too. I'm desperate because I'm out of retirement money. Or I'm desperate because I'm an illegal alien and you can pay me under the table for less money and I won't complain at all. It's an awful squeeze. And I hate it. I hate seeing stuff like this. So it pisses me off when Democrats are like, hey, teens that are already working can't have more hours or later hours. Like, child labor laws do exist to prevent children from being forced to do labor. That's essentially what they're there to do. But you know what? If there is an appropriate job for a 13-year-old, okay? If there is a job that is, that doing it would be age appropriate, then I think that they should be allowed to do it. I don't see any reason that a 13-year-old should not be allowed to do some kind of gainful employment. Now, I can understand limiting the hours that they're allowed to do it. I can understand putting various limitations, really. I mean, they are supposed to be in school. But getting that hands-on real-world experience is really important. So why are we doing this? We don't have to pass a law saying that, 15-year-olds can't work, because 15-year-olds have been getting squeezed out of the market forever. It's not an option. It's not even something that if they were like, if we took all the laws out, it'd be real hard for a 15-year-old to get employed anyway. We need to get the country back to the point where teens can work again. And I know there are plenty of teens out there that do have jobs, but it was way more prevalent really back in the days of my parents than it even was in my youth. And I do see high school students working at the grocery store from time to time. Not very many. There's only so many of those jobs. I feel bad for them. I did not like the fact that I was not granted access to gainful employment and transportation and all of that kind of stuff until I was, well past 18. I mean, it was a while after I turned 18 before I even got my actual driver's license and a vehicle and all that. I wish I could have gotten started 2 years earlier. I wish I could have learned those lessons earlier and the discipline that comes with it earlier, taking all those hard lumps when I was younger so that I could have done more with my adult years. But now, what the hell do kids have to do now? When they become teenagers, what do they have to do now? If they're lucky, they can get a job. If they're lucky. Oh, well, I guess we just got to watch TikTok all day. I mean, you wonder why kids do stuff like that, but think about it for a second. What the hell else are they going to do? You render an entire section of society useless. You basically say, you know what? Through 1,000 paper cuts, we are killing you from the economy. And then you wonder why those people are not doing what you want. Why they just don't fall in line with what you expect of them. Well, let me think about it. Gee, I wonder, why might that be the case? Something to chew on. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Thanks for watching. Have a good one.